Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Super Bowl week. So, of course, we're going to talk about the Grammys and a few other things and the Epstein files. But this is, I guess, Brian, you've only really been working in the game here, truly in the midst of the full-on internet era.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how Super Bowl week is not nearly as dominated by the Super Bowl in the zeitgeist as it used to be. Because now we just got so much other bullshit to talk about.
Right.
Like, that used to not be the case, but it used to be like, it's Monday, media, or I think Monday or Tuesday, but like media day, right? That's now Super Bowl opening night or something like that. Because media day does not mean the same thing because you see these people all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Right? No one is just introducing themselves to America in that way.
I think I caught the last wave of that because that was like the mid 2010s.
Yeah, and even then, I remember it started feeling like, like, to me, the biggest event of Super Bowl week is actually the NBA trade deadline, which is Thursday at 3 o'clock. Be on the lookout. If there's something happening, we'll be having a quick reaction about that one. But the Super Bowl itself does not fill the week in the way that it used to. Like, we don't need a press conference every day from the Super Bowl to give us things that we can talk about during the week. We don't need that. So instead, we get to talk about what the NFL maybe doesn't want us to talk about, or you know what? They just might not give a fuck, which is we had 10 head coaching openings this year. I would like to take a moment to point out 10 head coaching openings is a lot, guys. It's damn near 30% of the league turned over their coaches this year. And you know whose fault it is? Kurt Signetti, man. Ain't no excuses. Indiana won. You going to tell me you can't win with the Raiders? Indiana just won a national championship. Hey, man, it's the Cardinals. Indiana just won a national championship. That's trickling down all the way to here. Get ready. In the NBA, Kurt Signetti going to get some of y'all fired too. But anyway, 10 head coaches were hired. None of them were black. Not even the dude named Joe. Not even the dude named Jesse. Not even the dude named Robert who keeps a fade or a bald. I can't tell exactly what he's going here. But nope, shit, 2 mics. Neither one of them was black. Nope. We got a dude whose name is spelled unconventionally. He ain't even black, but Ryan, it's the white people unconventional spelling. You know who I'm talking about, right?
You're going to have to enlighten me.
Clint with a K.
Oh, yeah. I forgot we're on week 2 of Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, and I mean, look, what's his name? Roger Clemens did this too, right? But the thing with Roger Clemens is his last name is C. He named them all K because K's are strikeouts. And whoa, buddy, that was a bit much. But anyway.
Talk about someone who I'm glad doesn't have a podcast.
Buddy. Whoo, he probably ain't even got no computer. But Gary Kubiak, Mr. Knipple, all you white people who give your kids these KK names, don't do this to us because we gonna have that question. That being said, it's the great irony, Ryan, that the guy that really messed up in naming his kid is the guy who you would think would not make this mistake.
Steve?
And that would be Steve Kerr. And for those of you who don't know, Steve Kerr has a son named Nicholas, who I believe has begun to go as Nicholas,
but used to go by the shortening of Nicholas.
Yes, as opposed to he used to go by Nick in his regular life, meaning his name was Nick Kerr, and you have to say it really slow.
I'm gonna stick with Nicholas.
Yeah, you know what? Or just Nick.
Yeah.
Right? He just gonna be Nick. That's all it could be. Maybe you know what he needs to do? He needs to turn it into a nickname. He needs to get out here and see if he can borrow that nickname from Nick Foles. Right? That's what he needed to do. He needed to go out here and get him a reputation in these streets. And then they can start calling him BDN. And he could carry it out. But anyway, back to these coaches. No black coaches were hired in this cycle, though it is important to note that Robert Saleh is Lebanese and from around Detroit. Well, he's from Dearborn, Michigan, and that's they town. They got that one. Okay. They went ahead and got that one. But that leads to, semi-annual hand-wringing about hiring and Rooney Rule stuff and kind of looking at the fact that these things really go in cycles. Now, I used to do something every year on the Rooney Rule, and I kind of stopped in part because of the reason why I have to remind myself sometimes, like, oh man, it's Martin Luther King Day. You got something else on that. Because it felt to a degree like I was saying something new every year. And I try my best for those of y'all who are like dedicated to the squad. I kind of try my best not to repeat myself. And I guess in a way, it can feel a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to say it felt like there was no point, but it becomes somewhat difficult when it's just like, okay, so what's the new angle that I'm supposed to come up with about this? There's no point that I can make that hasn't been made before. But at the same time, this motherfucker still ain't listening. Therefore, maybe I just need to keep making it like for. I don't know exactly what it is that we are supposed to do on this one. Now, I have always felt that collectively we do a terrible job in discussing this. On one hand, it's the you should just hire the best candidate. Okay. You should be able to hire whoever you want. Not quite, right? And then we get to the flip side of this, which is, the people on the other side, they're just sick of it, right? And it could be put in italics and it could refer to many different things. But the bottom line is just a little sick of it, right? Sick of what was the sign that woman had? I forget, it was maybe 10 years ago during one of the protests. I was like, I can't believe I still got to protest this shit, right? Like this feels very similar when it comes to the Rooney Rule. Now, to me, there are a couple of worrisome things or patterns, we should say, or events that have happened in this. Number one, they used to do this kind of like speed dating event. I can't remember exactly what the name is, but it would get a bunch of coaches and a bunch of people who work with teams in the same room, and they would just kind of bounce from table to table and basically do speed dating to introduce themselves to the people who were in charge. And the argument behind it was that there are social networks at place that these black coaches do not get into, and therefore they don't have the opportunities to get FaceTime with these executives and to meet them. So if you put them in these positions to go around these rooms, then they would have the opportunity to meet these people. And I guess to a degree that made sense. My question on the other end was, I don't have a full understanding of how it is the white people were winding up meeting these same folks. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we get it that social networks, race can be a barrier to entry into these social networks. But end of the day, you a quality control man at one of these teams. We need to talk more about how it is that this white man gets to meet who the man is at the top. Like the speed dating thing, basically, it seems to me to imply a different argument. It's not even the argument of, hey man, well, white people feel more comfortable with white people, black people feel more comfortable with black people. It's not even that argument. It is making the implication that there is no way for black people to get known by these other people. And I guess the question I always had about that was, then how'd they get the jobs that they have in the first place, right? But at least they were trying. And it felt to me, remember, they made some expansions on the Rooney Rule, right? You had to interview 2 non-white candidates for these head coaching jobs. And you had to do this also for coordinator jobs. And I noticed, at least with my own eyes, at least maybe this was just anecdotal, but it sure felt like we had more black coordinators, or at the very least, more black defensive coordinators. Now, the real barrier had typically been black offensive coordinators. And that remains a barrier, and that becomes an important point that we'll get to. But I did feel like we were seeing more black defensive coordinators get that job. Like, I can name more black defensive coordinators off the top of my head now than I probably have at any other point in my life. Raheem Morris just got the job as defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Kelvin Shepard has the job in Detroit, where he replaced Aaron Glenn, who became a head coach, was basically his own defensive coordinator. Zach Orr was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore. He's going to wind up, it looks like, making a move to get another gig. The dude at Carolina, the Nigerian cat, I don't remember how to say his name. There's him. There's Vance Joseph in Denver, who is their defensive coordinator. I'm not saying that my ability to name these 5 guys has completely changed the world. I am saying that I couldn't always name 5 guys, all right? There is a measure of progress in that I think is important to note. I also think that it is important to note that while of these 10, none were black. Ryan, you help me out if I'm missing anybody here, but I've got Aaron Glenn, Todd Bowles. I guess Mike Tomlin just left of his own volition, but Aaron Glenn, Todd Bowles,
D'Amico Ryans.
Damn, is that everybody?
That might be everybody.
Damn, I was actually hoping to do this with a little bit more of a flourish. I didn't expect this to go away
so abruptly.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other problem that happens is when you fire the black coach, unless they try to save money, they ain't gonna hire another one, right? Like the Texans got the Texans had that thing where they were so sorry only a black man would take that job. Remember when they hired the dude that nobody had ever heard of, and then they hired Lovie Smith, who nobody else would hire. But then they did hire D'Amico Ryans.
Right.
And we're fortunate that he was willing to take the job. They had a wife from Houston. And if you know anything about people from Houston, they always ready to get right back, right?
Right.
That worked out well. You see how that is going for them, right? I think it's important at every step to acknowledge what is the case and not get quite as locked into what is not the case, all right? Now, the issue is with only those 3, and if any of them wind up, like Todd Bowles, how much longer are you going to be able to keep that job, for example? Right?
Yeah, on the hot seat this year.
Yeah. Aaron Glenn, let me tell you something. If I was in the business of arguing that racism was over, which I will never be in the business of, but if I was in that business, Aaron Glenn is getting to go to year 2.
And he fired his whole staff, like his whole offensive staff, like on Thursday.
Look, we both live in this city. We both paid attention to that team. I would not have called the NAACP if they had fired Aaron Glenn. I would not have expended a morsel of capital on that one. They looked awful. He did not handle the job well. All of those things.
I hate to use the Q word, but they quit around Thanksgiving.
They did quit.
And they had 5 more football games to play.
They didn't make an interception the whole year.
Yeah.
He got to keep his job.
With Woody Johnson as his owner.
There's something. Woody Johnson, who, by the way, he hired Saleh. Well, no, he didn't hire Saleh. That happened when he was over there in
he's over there
in UK, right? It was Ireland. I can't remember which one. Herm Edwards, that was his guy. He hired him. And Todd Bowles.
Yep.
You know what Woody Johnson is? Woody Johnson is the coaches what Bud Adams was the quarterbacks. I don't want to talk to you about politics, but I got to say, when you want to make a case for yourself, I kind of got to stand down for a minute. But the 10 thing is here's what was not encouraging to me. And Ryan, you and I both, we read a lot about these things. We pay attention. There's not a name anymore. Like, remember that Eric Bieniemy was the name. When is somebody going to give Eric Bieniemy a job? And I fell off of that because I was like, they was giving other brothers jobs and they weren't giving him one, right? For whatever reason. Mike Zimmer used to be that guy. Vic Fangio used to be that guy. Like white guys. Now, granted, these are defensive guys, but guys that people are like, no, we're just not giving you this. We don't see a head coach in you.
Matt Nagy now.
Yes, but he got a chance. Like, that was the thing that made it frustrating with Bieniemy, is that it felt like every offensive coordinator Andy Reid ever had got a chance except for this guy. But there's no name. Like, there's nobody that was being pushed and bandied around. And the reason is, right now, you correct me if I'm wrong here, we're in boy genius mode in terms of the coaches that people want to hire. Like, so you've got the John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, who I think of their own class, right? Guys with impeccable resumes, Super Bowl championships, they're their own thing. But the kind of Shanahan, McVay, boy genius class is these other guys. The Kevin Stefanski, Joe Brady, who's not in that same tree, but you remember when he was the boy genius, right? Coming off the LSU thing. This has been, he been boy genius for so long, he's still a boy.
Yeah.
Like, he's not 40 yet, is he?
I think he is. I think Joe Brady is right at the cusp of 40.
Yeah, because I want to say he was like 32 or 33 during
36.
He's 36, right? You know, Michael LaFleur, Matt LaFleur's brother, but another one of those McVay guys in that class. Jesse Minter, though defensive, kind of sort of in that boy genius class. I don't know that much about the Halfley guy. Do you?
I mean, he used to coach at Boston. He went from Boston to Green Bay to Miami. So
Yeah, but all these guys, like Mike McDaniel, was in the boy genius class. The only black dude right now that seems to be in the boy genius class is that Nate Scheelhaas guy who's down there with the Rams. And I'm telling you, somebody gonna be real weirded out when they called him into that interview and he walks in and they're like, yeah, so where's Mr. Scheelhaas?
yeah, where's Mr. S?
Yeah, and he's like, me. No, but yeah, he black. Scheelhaase, I believe is how you spell it. But he a black man, right? Not everybody gonna be he's like Mike McDaniel when he gets in. Mike McDaniel gets in there and talks about as a black man. What you mean? As a black man, what you talking about? I don't understand. But that's the place that the black dudes can't get to is the boy genius class. That's the hard part. You can get to the really good defensive mind. Like, so Brian Flores is an interesting case. Now, I've said you many times. I would not hire Brian Flores, right? And by the way, he did get on when he was kind of seen as Belichick genius guy. He got on. It's just he's never for a slew of reasons, some of which have to do with coaching, most of which have to do with personality, and one of which is a lawsuit. He's not going to wind up getting that job. But offense, we still can't get there. The holdup remains becoming offensive boy genius guy, or even just offensive coordinator. That remains the holdup. I don't know, or in my own head, I don't have mechanics or mechanisms for breaking through that one particular place. But that's the holdup. Like looking at these hires, Stefanski, offensive guy, McCarthy, Brady, Monken, Kubiak, LaFleur. They lean toward offensive guys because if you have a very good offensive guy, somebody else is going to try to hire him and you're going to eventually have to make him the head coach anyway. That's what the argument becomes, right? I just know this, and I want to close with this because I think that this part is very important. The problem with hiring as it relates to race in the NFL is not the Rooney Rule. The problem is that not that the Rooney Rule is ineffective, okay? That would be like saying that the problem with cancer is that you can't fix it with an aspirin. That is not about the limitations of aspirin. That's about the problem with cancer. And the NFL has a cancer of racism when it comes to hiring people at these levels. The problem is them. Dan Graziano, my buddy, who I like a lot, he sent a tweet out that says something about how this was not a banner year for the Rooney Rule. No. And I'm not like, I don't chastise Dan for this. I think he just fell into an error that a lot of people fall into when it comes to the phrasing on this, and that is to blame the rule because nobody wants to blame the white people. The problem in this case is the white people who do, or more accurately, do not do some of this hiring. The issue there is them. The issue is the owners. It's all these people on top. They are the problem. And I don't think that we could ever truly have any measure of solution on this until we are more honest about who the issue is. The issue is the people who ultimately decided to enact a Rooney Rule just because Johnny Cochran, rest in peace, was about to sue them into the ground. That is what made them act. It is only under the threat of litigation that they will act. Now, what is tricky, as I have said, where people are like, we need to get rid of the Rooney Rule. I'm like, no. They don't want to do that because they don't want to wind up back in court. But I don't have any idea if you can go to court anymore about race stuff, given the rules of the current regime and everything else, right? I don't have the answers on that part. But I just want to remind everybody something that we often forget, or in our phrasing, we ignore. I did an event the other night with my good buddy Howard Bryant for his book at the Jackie Robinson Museum. And Jackie Robinson's son, David, had flown in from Tanzania, and he stood up and he talked about progress and how sometimes we can talk about how we have not seen all the progress that we want to see, but there has been great progress over time. And I think coaching is an interesting place for that because there has been progress. Like, I was alive for the first black head coach that we all admitted was black and got a job in the modern era, and that was Art Shell. Ryan, you ever heard of Wayne Fonts?
I have not.
Okay, Wayne Fonts used to coach the Lions. I want you to look up a picture of Wayne Fonts. Go ahead and look at it right now.
Yep.
I just want to point out to you that he became a head coach the year before Art Shell. I also want to point out to you that Wayne Fonts his people are from Cape Verde. I don't know about you, but people from Cape Verde are black everywhere else I've heard of.
That was my understanding as well.
However, somehow he just slipped through. The pioneer hiding in plain sight. And he probably still at the house like, man, if you don't shut your black ass up. Shh, quiet. But anyway, I was alive when Art Shell got this. I have seen stretches where there were 6 or 7 black head coaches. I've seen the salad days of the Rooney Rule where they were out here making moves. I remember when Tony Dungy got fired in Tampa and Jim Irsay said, my number one candidate is Tony Dungy, and went down and hired Tony Dungy, right? Things are not what they were. They are not good enough. But it is important for those of us who speak on these matters to acknowledge where things have gotten better, okay? But I brought up what David Robinson said about progress because I made a point there that we can never forget is that when it comes to progress in the presence of racism, it is not me and my people who need to make progress. It is white people that need to make progress. It is not us who created these circumstances. It is them who created these circumstances, and they are the ones that need to do better. And as I say every year about this, the biggest winner from the Rooney Rule and breaking down those barriers of racism would be the white people. One black coach would get a job, okay? 2 black coaches might get a job. But if y'all start hiring better coaches, by the way, something you've never been good at is hiring coaches, right? Y'all should be trying to hire Martians. Y'all should be trying anything. Like, let me tell you something. If anybody spent 100 motherfucking years hiring black people at something and it didn't work, we get one chance and they don't hire another one after that. Y'all hire white man after white man, like the Giants. Y'all hire white man after white man after white man after white man. It ain't worked one time. And not once have you said, maybe we should try something crazy, right? It ain't worked for you not once. And not one person has just been like, fuck it, call the black guy. Yeah, I'm out of answers, right? Not once have you made the decision that maybe we should just try something out of the box in order to make this happen. Y'all hired Joe Judge. Y'all out here hiring special teams coaches or whatever it is, and not one time because you say to yourself, maybe we should try something else, right? Y'all would be the winners if you expanded your reach and maybe got out there and got some good coaches and made your teams better, right? It would serve a black person at a time. It would serve the whole league if you acted right. We ain't the ones that need to make progress. They the ones that need to make progress. So why don't you buck the trend of American history and do something that would help you out as opposed to just being dedicated to racism? Because that's the thing. So many places, so many times. Ryan, you're an LSU football fan. You're of the age, however, how you don't remember when LSU was like, nah, we just rather be racist than win. Texas,
it was a long time.
Oh, man, it was the whole SEC.
Yeah.
Except for Alabama. Where they were like, hey, buddy, yeah, we ain't going to take all of you, but we'll take more than them. Well, what was that? We will not be out-inwarded. I will tell you that. Texas spent a long time being like, nah, we'd rather be racist than win football games. Shit, they did it again. Well, I don't root for them no more with that damn song. They were like, nah, we'd rather be Ole Miss. You know, our state is 36% black, and black people seem to be very important in these sports. But nah, we had these flags that we would rather wave. That's America.
They'd rather rebel.
Yep. We would literally rather be worse than do better. That's how this is stacked up. at every turn. And they keep on doing it. And I'm just here to tell you, after one more year, either you let Kurt Signetti get somebody else fired, or you try something new. All right, we mentioned the NBA trade deadline is going to be Thursday. Ryan, you think they're gonna get Giannis moved by then?
I sure hope so. Or I think we've been kind of teetering and tottering about it for 2.5 years now, and I don't know if we can do another 6 months of it.
He's not getting bad advice. I think he's actually getting pretty good advice. However, when you got to pick people like to emulate as an NBA superstar, it's a long list of guys that you could choose. You could choose to emulate Michael Jordan. You could choose to emulate LeBron James. You want to kick it old school, you could emulate Bill Russell. You know, it's a lot of guys, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, that you could look at and be like, yeah, I want to kick it like they did, right? That'll get me to where I want to be. I would argue that kicking it like Dwight Howard is not what I would recommend. Okay? If you are outside of the paint on defense, I don't think that emulating Dwight Howard is the way to go. And Giannis is apparently playing the full-on Dwight Howard role on his way out of town. And he needs to remember that ended for Dwight Howard in being roundly disliked after being pretty universally beloved for about 8 years. But that's what we got here. Now, for those of you who don't remember this, all right, and let's be clear, Dwight handled this a lot worse. Dwight was set to be a free agent in Orlando, but he wasn't going to be a free agent because his contract was going to expire. He had a player option to get out of his deal. And this is years after they had been to the finals. The Magic are not really competitive in that way. It had long been forecast that he was going to wind up being the next great big man to wind up going to play for the Lakers, following in the footsteps of Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And we all knew this, but every interview with Dwight was about how Dwight loved Orlando and he's torn. And, he doesn't really know what to do, or he really loves Orlando, so forth and so on, everything else. But we all understood that Dwight wanted to get out of there. And I'm trying to remember the exact order of events. Ryan, do you remember if he opted? No, he must have opted in after the weird Stan Van Gundy press conference. Stan Van Gundy got in front of us and told us that Dwight was trying to get him fired.
I think he opted. It was all within like a 48-hour trade deadline window. So he opted in. I think he opted in, then tried to get, and then the press conference happened.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. But basically, for those who don't remember, Stan Van Gundy's doing this press conference where he's talking about how he's literally sick of the bullshit that's going on, and that he knows that Dwight has tried to get him fired. And while he's standing there saying this, Dwight comes and put his arm around him. We're all fine. Everything's okay. People act like we got problems. There are no problems. And he has no idea that Stan just told everybody this dude's trying to get me fired. And then Stan walked away and left him standing there to look like a fool, and nothing was the same. Then he went and played with Kobe, and Kobe did him no favors. And nothing has ever been the same. But what ultimately went down is we viewed Dwight as a phony from that moment on. And I think what bothered people was everybody would have understood if he wanted to get out of town, right? No matter what he had said before about how he wanted to stay there forever, in the end, people understand things change. Look at the divorce rate, right?
And not just change and go to the Lakers, which is a tale as long as the NBA as it was. Yes.
Yeah, but just even if it's not the Lakers, just get me out of here. Yeah. I don't want to play here anymore. It was an understandable thing. Now, the trick bag for him is that they hadn't won a championship there right? So you can make the argument of unfinished business, but he had gotten them to the finals. He got them to the finals on a team where the second best player was either Hedo Turkoglu or Rashard Lewis, right? Got on with getting LeBron James
LeBron
out of there. The best postseason version of LeBron we have ever seen. And he got him out of there in 6 games, right? In that one. It took superhuman LeBron-ness to even stretch it to 6, right? But he looked phony. Okay. And people are like, dude, why you keep lying to us when we know what time it is with you? And that is exactly what is happening with Giannis. And it is a very similar story. Now, Dwight was the number 1 pick in the draft, but they both kind of had this all shucks sort of charm, right? They kind of had they're the guys that want to do the right thing. They are seen as being moral white hats, basically, in this league in a number of ways. Dwight was wrapped up in Jesus. Giannis has like a real life. He got an immigrant story to go with the immigrant story. Man didn't have he was a man without a state in Greece with no passport. Couldn't get a passport till he came here. That Antetokounmpo, that's not his name. That's how the Greeks decided to respell his name when they finally decided to give him a passport, right? Like he had to live a life where he wasn't even under his own name, where he had no country to truly call his own. He comes over here and is one of the most amazing NBA stories that we've ever had in the ascent. He won that championship, and buddy, nobody's stretching that one ring out farther than he is. I used to say that Dirk Nowitzki and Paul Pierce were getting the most mileage out of their one ring out of anybody else, just in the ways it changes your reputation, right? Like it allows us to think of Dirk as maybe a top 15 all-time player, but more importantly, not as a soft Euro. It allows Paul Pierce into some different conversations. But with Giannis, put it like this, if Paul Pierce never won a championship, we would not sit around talking about what Paul Pierce was not. We wouldn't do that. Giannis is at that superstar caliber the same way Dirk was, where we would be talking about what you're not, right? There has been a point where you've been the best player in the NBA. There's an argument that Dirk Nowitzki had that stretch also. But not only you've lost as an 8 seed, as a 1 seed to an 8 seed, which by the way, also in the Dirk Nowitzki playbook. There's the blown 2-0 lead in 2019. I mean, there's been some really embarrassing postseason losses for Giannis along the way. And we let them slide because he already got that championship, right? But it's hard to overcome the label of being phony. And the truth is, you want out of there. We all understand that you don't want out of there, but you do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? Like
you don't want to leave, but you want to leave.
Yeah, and look, they've done all the things to try to keep you there. And you don't want to feel like they did all those things in vain, but they did all the things to try to keep you there. And you are still playing at a level that we would think of as MVP caliber basketball in a world that didn't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic who's coming back, right? We all get that. But you got to stop telling us or stop pretending like this isn't what it is. You want to go, you're going to have to be the bad guy right fast and go. The truth is, if you had leveled with all those people there and been like, look, I've done everything I can here, but I think it's time for me to go somewhere else. I think the people in Milwaukee, because they got the ring, would then understand. They see what's happened for the team. They want to move into the future. They could talk about getting some picks and everything else. They would ultimately be okay with you, even if they were mad at you for a little while. Case in point, they love LeBron again in Cleveland, right? And he embarrassed them in front of America. You could be fine, but you just got to go ahead and own that part and be straight ahead with it. Now, for you, maybe it's too late, right? The thing that I'm looking at, Ryan, I keep seeing these trade packages that people say that the Bucks can get, and I don't know about none of them.
Especially the ones for the teams he's rumored to want to go to.
So the rumors are that he wants to go to, and I've been told this, Minnesota, New York, and Miami. I don't think Miami turns into a winner necessarily. You do that if you believe in Pat Riley, right? Who's
getting up there.
Yeah, in 2026, I don't know about that, right? But I would be terrified of what you do against a team if you got Bam and Giannis.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. How are you guys going to score? Okay, that's the Nigeria going to be all. That's the Nigerian squad right there. You know they need to move that. They could only be more Nigerian if they played in Houston. That would be the only way. Minnesota, a bit surprising that that's where he says he might want to go. New York, they'll love him here because I've been telling people this, that at some point people in this city were going to realize they didn't like Karl Towns' game.
Took about what, 15 months?
It's a year and a half. You live here with me. It has happened. Even with the missed free throws, they'll love Giannis's game.
Yeah.
Giannis plays hard. Giannis plays tough. Giannis is not afraid of being embarrassed, right? Like all of those things. And if you put him there with, say, Jalen Brunson, you got somebody to take the big shots so you don't have to worry about the free throw situation. Like you've got the parts that are there. I think, and I've said on this show many times, that I think for a lot of these guys, the game down the line is just going to be stay where you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just stay where you are because of it's so hard to do anything with these aprons and everything else. You probably got, you might as well, the idea that you're going to go somewhere and now you be a champion in a couple of years is going to be impossible for you again.
Right.
You might be better off just staying where you are. But there are oh my God, it's so hard. Man, don't nobody want to hear that shit, man. Either I'm staying or I need to go. But you can't, because isn't he be hitting us with the, I don't know where all these rumors are coming from? Yes, you do. That's the one that people don't want to hear. I don't understand why people keep. Yes, you do, right? Carmelo is a great example. It got ugly at the end with Denver. And I've said this many times. The fact that Denver gave his number away is the pettiest thing in the world. They did, but they did it multiple times. It's ridiculous that they did that. But Melo never acted like he didn't want to leave. He never did. And I think that part in the moment bothered people, but I think you have to look back on it like it was actually fairly admirable. Like, look, man, this is the thing I want to do right now. I also want to get all my money.
Right. Also admirable.
Yeah. I also want to get all my money, which, again, that was the issue.
Right.
Is that he wanted to get all his money and make the move. Denver got a great trade package for him, too.
Yeah.
But if you want to go, go. We may not get it at first, but we're grown. We've been doing this for a while. If you want to go, go. But you don't want people saying you a phony. And that's what we're going to say based on the way that he has acted. And eventually people will get over it, but he got nobody to blame for it but himself. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite or riding with the underdog, make it count. Because after the Super Bowl, the season's over, and football is officially done. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/Bomani to get started.
21 plus and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kansas, Wyoming. Opt-in requirement. Awards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. See terms at sportsduel.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, Bo, some more stories from the weekend. Speaking of NFL owners and malfeasance, Giants co-owner Steve Tisch has been named in the latest Epstein files. His name appears at least 440 times in the latest documents released. Co-owner and vice president of the Giants, ironically also produced a film called Risky Business, which is about underage people looking for sex. Bo, what was your reaction to this news?
Okay, so the Epstein files are media gold. And the reason that I say media gold is that everybody's in them. Like, no matter what kind of website you got, you have something that you can attach to the Epstein files, and then boom, it gets posted, right? Pusha T got his name tied up. How does Pusha T know him?
Right. What in what world do Pusha T and Mr. Epstein?
Yeah. Like, what is this? So we got Jay-Z there. Like, the rappers get involved in this. Bill Gates, who, it's a good thing he's already divorced.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it would be
owners in multiple leagues.
Yes,
including ones that aren't here.
All over the place. Everybody's name is tied in this in some form or fashion. Now, part of what's interesting about this is that Tisch, who is the co-owner of the Giants, I can't explain to y'all, if you are not in New York, how rich Tisch is, right? Like the Tisch name, what that means. Like, Ryan was like, what's the first thing you think about with Tisch? And I had three. I got his first one, which is his name is all over NYU stuff, right? Hospitals and the likes. What is that, a niece or a granddaughter or something? That's the police commissioner. I can't tell which. Then there was another thing that we had.
The Met.
The Met. You go to the Met, you'll see the Tisch name all over the walls. Like, these guys, what can Roger Goodell do or any of these people do? Because Tisch's name is in the emails. The guys that are in bad shape in the emails are the guys in the emails after Epstein had already been busted for putting girls on the stroll, and you still emailing him about girls, right? Like, are they treating that like he the local bodega and they caught him up selling cigarettes from Virginia? And you're like, oh yeah, but I pay full price. Right? Like, is that the explanation or the justification that you have for still dealing with? Because I don't like, after you get caught with that, partner, we can't. I got partners I done had to cut off for less than that, right? Like, hey, we can't do that, but y'all still go to this man to get girls. Like, that is what these reports are saying, and you are tied up in this just like all these other people are tied up in this. And I don't know ultimately what's going to happen with any of these guys. I don't think there's any like legal consequences that are going to come down to it. And I also think that it's going to be so many people who get caught up in it and their names get out there that we're not going to really be able to remember because there's nobody's going to have the time to do the follow-ups about those things, right? It's just going to be embarrassing and shameful, in part because most journalistic entities don't even have the ability to like dig deeper to find out what's really going on with a lot of them.
Right. And we have not said the name of we talked about all these people, and we have not said the president and the richest person in the world.
That is true. That is true. They are there, right? But let me hit you with a however. This is a very important thing for all these guys. Because everybody wants there to be some punishment, right? Everybody wants something to happen to these dudes. And I don't think anything's going to get anybody put in jail or anything like that. But there's a different kind of jail that you can go to. It's not the one with the bars and the jumpsuits and the terrible food. It's the one that can be your home. That can be your home when your wife reads that you've been emailing this dude about hollering at girls. All these dudes have had to go home to explain how it is that they got caught up in this. Every single one of them has had to do that. And it ain't going good for not a single one of them. The only guy that seems to have a good explanation is Russell Wilson. Hey, man, I was just trying to buy a plane. I ain't even know. I ain't never met that. Hell no. Russ got out in front of that. Russ was like, hey, baby, I was just trying to buy a plane. Yeah, that man ain't trying to mess up his
trying to buy you a plane.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It was supposed to be a surprise.
All right, speaking of things in free fall, Bitcoin has really tanked in the last week. The digital coin has fallen about 12% in the last 7 days, wiping off about $200 billion in value, now under $80,000. Bo, what was your reaction to this news?
Look, man, I don't even really be thinking about funny money no more. Like, I forgot that after, you remember the year old funny money?
Yeah.
2022. That was the year. That was when funny money really had its time. The funny money Super Bowl fortune favors the brave and everything else. But the truth is, people were still going about that funny money. It just stopped being like a fad.
Right.
Remember NFTs?
I do remember NFTs.
I watched a documentary on Netflix the other day about like the run on NFTs. We were bored. Like 2021, man, people were bored and they just thought it was going to hit for a lick, right? The thing with the Bitcoin stuff always is, man, it'll have another jump up, it'll have another drop. But my issue with funny money has always been no one can really explain the determinants of price. What's going to make these things go? And it is a cult of people who just decide that once they do it, they're going to get on it. They're going to stay on it. It's never going to stop. Right? That's the ride they are on. And so I don't even really think that much about it no more when people get caught up in funny money. Y'all decided to do this. Now, if you knew and just woke up and was like, I think I'm going to get on this Bitcoin thing, you deserve everything you get. The rest of y'all, hey, man, this is the ride you chose to sign up for. I hope you have a good time.
All right. And finally, the Grammys were last night. Kendrick Lamar became the most decorated rapper in the history of the Grammys. Bad Bunny had some comments, condemning ICE. Lauyrn Hill showed up. What was your biggest surprise from the night?
Lauyrn Hill. What time did they tell her to show up? Because it appears that she was on time. They must have did they tell her the show was the night before? Or did they tell her that they needed to do like a sound check at 11 in the morning and then you just kept coming up with reasons for her not to leave? Like, how did that? there's no way in the world that I personally would be doing a live television show and book Lauyrn Hill to do it. There's no chance. The chakra.
I'm stressed out just thinking about it.
Yeah. The chakras and the shit ain't in line, so she ain't coming to work. You could never pay me enough to set her up there. The tribute was actually very good, and I appreciated the fact that I didn't think they got too locked in on how big the names were. Right? Like, they had a lot of people that I'm aware of, but I don't think are like giant stars. Bringing Layla Hathaway in to sing her daddy's part, I thought was a good thing. But the biggest surprise to me is that Wyclef pulled up. I suppose I remember that Praz couldn't show up because he's been sentenced to 14 years in the Bing. But Wyclef showing up, I didn't know them two could still be in the same room. I thought that was very nice of her to come because he served no purpose in that. We didn't need him for anything on that performance. But I thought they got it, right? I thought they did a very good job of it, and I appreciated that they gave D'Angelo like a full 11-minute tribute there, right? Like, that's what you give to the real, like, stars of a real particular magnitude. They gave it to him. I thought that was cool. I thought the Kendrick Lamar thing, where it turns out now he has more Grammys than any rapper ever, and I don't remember the exact Drake line because I don't be memorizing Drake lines, but basically he talked about all Kendrick got to do is cough and y'all give him a Grammy. Can't say that the dude was wrong. He has a bit of a point. Kendrick Lamar has 27 Grammys. What? What are we talking about? Like, I don't take the Grammys seriously, personally, right? Particularly not when it comes to rap. But 27, dog. 27. That's okay. Cool. Right. Got you. And look, y'all all know I ain't really out here trying to be out here saying Drake was right. But, on that one, he wasn't wrong. And then Bad Bunny, who basically gave ICE the middle finger without saying it up there. It's about to be a very interesting week for Bad Bunny out here. Has had them other people come up with their halftime show yet?
I believe that they're keeping it a secret.
A secret, you say?
Yes.
Okay. I actually think that was the biggest loser in all of this? That dude, Jelly Roll. They hit Jelly Roll. They tried to get Jelly Roll on the red carpet to say something about ICE, and Jelly Roll said he ain't know nothing about no politics. He's like, I'm from a drug-addicted, dumb redneck from a drug addict home. We don't know anything about politics. Partner, you don't live there no more. You don't live there no more. They asking you about what ICE is doing up there in Minnesota, which, by the way, is also not politics.
Right.
Right? Like, that's a pretty clear yes and no. And all the talk you got about Jesus and the Bible and everything else, and in that moment, you ain't trying to talk about politics. And it's just like, it's a bummer, man. Look, we all pick and choose. I got things I don't feel like talking about in front of people. right? But Jelly Roll's thing is interesting because at once he's the dude with a bunch of tattoos on his face, but also that part of the world that supports that, that's a lot of his money. Okay. Didn't Jelly Roll used to be like on 3-6 Mafia joints? Like, but his money is over there. Right? Like his money is with these people who roll with that other stuff. I just thought you was about Jesus, partner.
All right, Bo. Another great day of voicemails. We got a few good ones. Here's the first.
Hey, what's up, Bo? John from LA. This isn't so much an apology as it is an acknowledgement, because I did doubt you, man. I thought you kind of being hard on the brothers in Dallas with them being herbs and everything. And recently, I had an opportunity to work with a young man from Houston, and I was telling him about the show and what you were saying and talking about the shags, and he said, yeah, man, it's true. I said, what? He said, yeah, man, they wear shags in Dallas. I said, come on, man. He said, dude, they be running from the barber. In the middle of the haircut, they just get up and run from the barber because that's all that can explain the shag. All right, man. Yes, you were right. Catch you later.
No, actually, you do owe me an apology because you were saying that as though you thought I was lying. I told you they wear shags. And then when somebody else said it, and you were like, oh, okay, now it's true? Why would I lie to you about the fact that they was wearing shags? They call it a booty fade, as if that's any better. Yeah. Them boys wear shags. That's crazy, right? They still do. And that one boy, he's still in the one that played for the Thunder. I think he finally got rid of his shag, but he had been gone from Dallas for a long-ass time. Still out there wearing the shag. I think I told you about this. I got a partner in Cali. He's a great barber. He's also an actuary, so I don't think he's really barbering anymore. But he used to work at a shop in Rialto, and he said old head used to come in there and ask him for a shag, and he would refuse to give it to him until he finally told him, I give you this shag, but you can't tell nobody you've been coming over here getting no shag, man. That's bad for business. And he was like, it was a dope-ass shag, too. But he was just like, you just can't be in here telling people that I'm out here giving shags. You just can't do it. And the whole city,
bad for business.
Yeah, and the whole city of Dallas is like, get your shags, 2-for-1 shags.
All right, here's our next one.
Hey, Bomani. This is Matt, Northern Kentucky, right outside of Cincinnati. So I'm at Ace Hardware today, and for the first time in my life, I came across a white Xavier. I had never, ever met a white Xavier before. And the only thing I know about this man, who is a Gen Z guy, the only thing I know about him after this interaction is he is no receiver. I watched this man fumble my return, my baseball cards, and my chocolate bar before tripping over the trash can behind him on the way to put something back on the shelf. White Xavier needs to find a new position, man. Big fan of the show. Take it easy.
Okay, first of all, I would like to start with the fact that my man went to Ace Hardware to buy some baseball cards.
Yeah,
Ace Hardware is...
I didn't realize it's the 1920s.
Yeah, it's slowly approaching the Radio Shack zone.
Yeah.
Wow, still in the league, huh? But boy, I tell you this, though, I still have times where a nice Radio Shack come in handy, right?
Yeah, sometimes you need that cord.
Just need to run in and get a cord, right? Yeah. Number two, what makes the idea that there are no more white Xaviers interesting is that Xavier is like a very Catholic name, right?
Right.
Like it's saints and stuff like that. When did they
Popes.
decide to let us have Xavier? They're like, no, y'all got that. Cool. No, we don't even need it, partner. You go ahead and take that. Like, what did it take for them to give up Xavier? Or did they just get so frustrated at hearing us say Xavier that they were like, fuck it, man, it don't even fit no more. You got it.
All right, here's the next one. On similar theme.
Hey, Bomani. Hey, Ryan. I just wanted to call and add another name to the recent voicemail trend of names such as the White Reggie or the White Galen. For your consideration, the White Lamont. Recently was in Wisconsin, a rural part of Wisconsin, I should note. And there is an elected official in that county, an older man, looks like he's in his 70s, white man named Lamont. Do with this what you will.
Yo, so this is the thing that people don't get, man. The country whites love a name. They don't so much care about the D names, and they don't add apostrophes, and they don't necessarily capitalize immediately after the L. But there's a lot of white ladies named LaDonna, stuff like that. They do that. But Lamont, another one that I felt like they let us have. Now, you know, Italy got that dude Lamont that won the 100 meters, but he's still black. You know what I'm saying? But you remember, I don't know, there used to be a baseball manager named Gene Lamont. He was white. So, yeah, by the way, speaking of which, rest in peace to Lamont Sanford. Demond Wilson died over the weekend, right? And he was a very black Lamont. But I feel like this voicemail was in the spirit of Lamonts of all sorts. What do you think would happen if he said it was a rural white man that was involved in the city government up there? What if I went to one of their city council meetings and I screamed out, "You big dummy"? You think he'd get it?
I mean, that show was very, like, 15 million people used to watch that show. So,
Yo, the thing about Sanford & Son with Lamont for me always is there was nothing cool about Lamont, man. All we knew is that his dad called him a dummy all the time. That's all we knew is his dad called him a big dummy at every turn. Me and Shannon used to have the big dummy of the week on the radio show.
That's a good bit.
Oh, it was great every week. We'd have it every week.
All right, here's our last one. Staying in theme with the Super Bowl.
Hey, what's up, Bo? What's up, Ryan? This is CB from Brooklyn. I have to tell a story about learning about Lil Ginger Cuz at my son's school. So my son goes to a lovely public school here in Bed-Stuy, and he was invited to join the basketball team. And I got asked to help coach. So I, decided, all right, I'm going to do this, all that. And I had seen this young man earlier in the school year, and it was a little white boy, super duper ginger. He pulled up to school, first day of school, with some extra clean A1s, the Asia Wilson signature shoe. And I was like, all right, that is a choice that his parents made because they are not cheap and they're very distinctive. So I pulled up to basketball practice, Ginger Cuz on the team. Like, all right, cool. Let me see what's good with Ginger Cuz. He can hoop a little bit. He's one of the older kids. This is a 3rd through 5th grade team. We get to the end of practice, and the coach asks for player voices. And Ginger Cuz is one of the leaders on the team because he was on the team last year. And he kicks it to Ginger Cuz. Mind you, I know who his mom is. His mom is on the PTA. And this isn't spicy white. This is regular, degular, Brooklyn, lives in a nice spot white. And Ginger Cuz goes, yeah, y'all did great today. Everybody gave their maximum effort. Everything was real good. I'm real proud of where this team is going in that dialect. And I was like, wow. Lil Ginger Cuz. It is very clear that young man has been the only white kid in his class for a while. And I am very excited to see where this season goes with Lil Ginger Cuz as one of our team captains. Thank you. Have a good one, Bo. Have a good one, Ryan.
Man, the white people that send their kids to public schools with the black people, right? There's a special
They
place.
haven't gentrified all of Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, special place in heaven for those folks, man.
Yeah.
There really, really is, because you ain't really got to do that. And quite honestly, I don't always know if I recommend that you do it. But what I would pay to hear from those people is, like, Ryan, you don't have to verify this if you don't want to, but I think that you'll agree that one thing that I would find interesting if I were a white person is when black people who spend a lot of time around white people tell you what the things are that white people do that are funny. That is like, hadn't really thought of that. It's just kind of an average thing. Like black comedians give you all kinds of access and insights into such things, right? We don't talk nearly enough about the things that white people who spend all their time around black people have the good fortune of noticing and thereby sharing. I would love to get to Ginger Cuz when he's like 19 and he'll be like, yo, so here's this thing about black people. And they'll be like, what you mean? And then he starts talking and be like, yeah, he's got a point.
I'll plead the fifth there.
Hey, look, man, humans are humans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've all got things.
Yeah.
You guys know we got some things. It's okay, but also you're playing this the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 4 times a week. Ryan Bellamy handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Hit the voicemail line, 323-596-7767. By the way, tomorrow we begin our series on... No, tomorrow we don't. Tomorrow's just different. Time Machine Tuesday. My fault. The week after we begin our series on the year 1996 in rap. That's going to be a 6-week series, by the way, so look out for that. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars, and do those things, please. Help us out. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe that you're not a person who's trying to help, you hater. Take it easy.